Welcome. You've splash landed into this Prosecco-laden podcast, straight into the woo-woo pool with the crew of Ohm-g. We're just a simple group of tragically imperfect and highly empathic BFFs, exploring a wide range of atypical topics with humor, grace, and curiosity. This is Ohm-g. Welcome, everyone. Today we're touching on a topic you're all familiar with, vibes. Are you vibing on a high frequency or slumming on a low one? Do vibes even matter, or is it just luck sprinkled with karma? Let's discuss. You're here with the crew of
Gee whiz, the podcast. Welcome back.
We're short here today. But this is Brenda.
This is Camille.
And you got Chandra.
And Lynn.
And we decided that we would the show must go on. So here we are. And we had been talking with each other a few weeks ago about manifestation, because who doesn't? I think that's what we're all trying to do, is manifest ourselves into the life that we want, fulfill our dreams, right? And we got on the topic of, do you feel like you've led a charmed life? Because I know when there'd been times in my life that, looking back, I know my vibration was not very high, but things seemed to be working out in my favor. I've got tons of examples of where things just worked out for me. And, like times when there were accidents and I should have been really hurt. I should have had a broken bone or not a scratch. Never had a broken bone, never had a cavity, it's just like, it feels like it's a very charmed existence. And I was like, well, how does that fit in with, how am I manifesting that when looking back, I know I was in a low place? So that's kind of what we're going to discuss today.
At least you thought you were in a low place.
I felt in a low place. I remember at the time.
I thought about, how there's been lots of times I probably should have been homeless, as a single mom and trying to make ends meet and all that kind of thing. But it seems like I always had what I needed.
Mm-hmm.
I might not have had the best of the best, but we always had what we needed, and we had food to eat, and we had electricity, and I had a car to drive, and I was able to go to a job to make money. So I felt like if that's charmed, then have been charmed my whole life to never want for anything, really, not that's of great importance.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I feel that way too. Same for me, Brenda. It's been 20 years ago that I got a divorce, and I left with nothing. I just walked out because it was easier to walk away with nothing. Exactly. But I never faltered. And I only had a part-time job, and I walked out with a kid and nothing. And it worked out like very much in my favor.
Yeah, that was me after Emma and Colleen's dad. I left with nothing as well.
Yeah.
And 2 kids. And it was some hard time.
Yeah, it wasn't easy, but everything always worked out.
Right.
And I say that all the time when I look back, like I never was let down by the universe.
No,
right.
Never.
And at the time you were in the middle of the struggles and it felt like struggle.
Yeah.
But now, from where you are now, different perspective, looking back, you're like, that could not have worked out any better.
It couldn't have worked out any better than it did.
And during those times, you had some negative thoughts running through your mind. You had anger, you had shame, you had self-doubt.
So much of that.
And I'm sure, victim, why me? Why me, Lord? Why me?
Absolutely.
So you wouldn't think that you're vibing high during desperate times like that. And I've had some similar experiences. I can look back on my life and think about times where your ass was in a sling. You could have been kidnapped. You could have been this. You could have been that. And sailing through on golden wings.
But also, it just dawned on me, what do you think about trust? Because I never lost my trust in all of that.
Your trust in spirit,
your
universe having your back.
Yep.
I didn't either.
And
I lost my trust in men.
Yeah.
Mankind.
Mankind, yes. But I never said, what if I don't make it? I just knew I would.
Me too.
Even though I was in a bad place, I never lost my hope and my trust.
Yeah.
That's an interesting perspective because I've never thought about it in that way. And I can say I didn't either. There's been a lot of times where it's looking back, it's almost like I never assumed anything bad was going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, even though I was depressed, even though I was in a low mental state, I never thought that this isn't just going to work out, that I'm going to lose my job or I'm going to, things can only get worse from here. I never had that kind of mentality. So that
me either.
I need to meditate on that one.
So law of assumption.
Mm-hmm.
Because I never assumed anything other than I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, same.
I mean, I might not be okay today, but I'm going to be okay tomorrow.
Yeah.
I just assumed it.
I got that vibe as well, big time. Pretty much my whole life, I've been called naive, too trusting, all of those things.
Yeah.
Don't leave your purse there. Someone's going to take it. Oh my gosh, you didn't lock your door. Someone's going to get you, And I just, like Chandra said, I don't walk around expecting bad things to happen. And I sure know a lot of people that seem to.
Yeah.
And I just had a memory because when I was growing up, everyone in my family hated to drive at night. Going somewhere at night was very, very rare. And they were all afraid. They were afraid something's going to happen. So, we're going to have an accident, whatever. They were afraid to drive at night. And they were also, when I would just from college pick up and say, I'm going to drive down to Clemson from Boone. I'm just going to drive down to Clemson because I got a friend there and I'm just going to hang out for the weekend. You're going by yourself?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to drive that far by yourself? It's 4 hours.
Right.
There was always that mentality of fear. And I never had that. I'm like, I remember even at 18 sitting there thinking, I'm not going to live my life in fear like that. Maybe something will happen and maybe I'll have to take the consequences, but I'm not going to sit here in fear when it hasn't happened yet at all.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. Same for me too. And I wonder if some of that, the family lineage of the fear-based stuff, because I would say that my family is like that as well. And I wonder if that comes from the religious side of things where everything is so fearful and,
the line or pay.
Yeah. And then they were kind of the beginning era of TV and news and all that kind of stuff. And I think before that, people just didn't know what was going on because they didn't have the way to communicate. And I wonder if the generation that's now my kids' age, if they have more anxiety because they can know even so much more. We spent time outside playing. I didn't.
Blissful ignorance.
Exactly. I didn't really watch TV because we didn't have a TV. And we weren't allowed to watch TV. So I didn't grow up with that at all. And then what was on TV was fairly wholesome, right? So I wonder if now kids, there's so many kids who have anxiety and issues with a lot of depression and anxiety. I wonder if a lot of that comes from over information. So we were kind of like the sandwich generation, our age of people that we weren't as exposed as who's now. But it was probably a shock for our parents to hear some of the things that they heard on the TV news or whatever.
And we grew up when it was on a trajectory. We've never known when it wasn't, but we kind of got to assimilate along with it.
Right.
And now our next generation is at the same place that our parents were, where it's fire hose of information all of a sudden.
Right.
Yeah, but my mom, even after I had divorced and she was up here visiting me, she said to me, "You're not scared of anything. You just do it." And my mom was afraid of everything, which is why her life was so even keel, we'll say. And she never really did anything.
Well, they were raised by Depression era. So there was a lot of fear there as well. So maybe our generation, we're trying to clear out some of that fear. And now we're breeding it again.
Well, not to get off topic, but.
Right, I'm totally off topic.
You were saying that, Lynn. I was thinking, so growing up, I lived my life. I'm not gonna live in fear like that. I'm just gonna do what I want to do and let the consequences fall where they may. I mean, not that I was doing things that were dangerous. It was just, I'm going to do what I want to do and see what happens. So living with kind of like that low of a level of fear. And now it's like, spiritually speaking, I'm afraid of everything. It's like, I'm afraid to do the thing. I'm afraid what'll happen if I do the thing. So where did that come from?
Because you know too much, like everyone else out there.
Maybe that's the case.
Well, I think you have life experiences that kind of smack you down a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it creates the fear. And I think, too, whenever I became a mom, I became a lot more fearful because I was worried about the kids, them being hurt or something happening to them. So I would always, this anxiety talking, obviously, but I would always like be able to look at them playing and see that they were doing something, and I could see what could happen. Like they could fall and they could hit their head on this thing that's sitting on the side of the road, or, it was like my mind would go through all the scenarios. And so I probably raised them in some kind of that fear, especially my two older kids. I relaxed a little bit more as I got, child number 3 was like, yeah, you can go ahead and do it.
By the time you knew what you were doing.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. I think, and then, you have life experiences like you get divorced and you are hurt by other people that are around you. And then it causes that distrust and that anxiety to start coming in. So you're afraid to do something because what if you do fail? Or will you look stupid? Will people think that you're stupid?
Mm-hmm.
And did the universe allow us to just save up all of our fear that we have to work through for the important stuff?
The shadow work.
The shadow work, right?
Rude. That's real rude.
I know. How dare they?
Yeah.
Well, I have a question, actually. When you're vibing high, and everyone who's sitting here has felt that, where the universe is opening doors for you, where you're meeting the right people and you're in a great mood and life is hopeful and you see good things unfolding for you and the people around you. What are some things that are also going on in your life when that stuff passes? I mean, can you point out anything? Are you eating right? Are you exercising? Are you meditating daily? Can anyone speak to that?
Well, I do meditate on a daily basis.
I'm impressed.
I do in the mornings before I go to work. I will not leave the house until I've had a few moments to sit and get myself in alignment.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you laying out your agenda and asking your guides to assist you? Give us a little nugget of the Lynn process.
So usually when I finish getting my hairs did, y'all, I lock myself in my bedroom and I light a candle, burn some smudge, pull some cards, and then I sit down and I just speak with my guides. And sometimes I go into the records because I need to know something. But I do ask for them to lead me to opportunities and to open doors, let me see what I'm supposed to see, and just kind of laying the groundwork for the day.
Setting intentions.
Yes. And if I don't do it, my day usually is pretty crappy.
Good self-training.
Yeah.
Looking back, I feel like it was more of just kind of like a natural ebb and flow. Those times where you felt like you were riding the wave, you kind of, looking back, you kind of know that wave's going to have to crest eventually. It can't keep building and building and building. Eventually it's going to crest and you're going to ride it back down, but then you're going to ride it right back up. So didn't feel that way at the time as everything else. But looking back, it was like, it feels like I was riding the wave rather than letting the wave crash over me.
I think that's really a good analogy, like for a visual, because I think that's how it is, because we can't be on that high all the time. I mean, I wish we could because it's awesome.
It'd be exhausting, though.
It would be, yeah. But, you do, and you continue as you're on that high, like that continues until something comes along that takes you on the low, whether it's, somebody pulls in front of you in traffic and pisses you off, or, I mean, it can be something as small as that. But I've also noticed that if I'm in a really, really high vibe place, and it usually is after I've had a really good day, and maybe I've had some really good sessions, spiritual sessions, I felt really connected with spirit. Like, have you guys noticed that people look at you differently?
Mm-hmm.
It's almost, I don't know if you're like glowing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But people like look at you and it's, they see your vibes, even if they don't know they're seeing your vibes,
Well, topic for another episode, but was going down a Bashar rabbit hole. And he was talking about that as in when you're growing like that and you jump timelines, right? you can still see those people that were your people in a previous version of yourself. And he said, you can change so much that you meet those people and they don't even recognize you, even though you were so close to them at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's definitely the same situation going on there. But when we go back to the wave thing, I think I'm going to get nerdy, as I tend to do. But you think about wavelengths, like sound. If the waves are very far apart, you don't get very high. And it's a long time before you get to the next one, right? But higher frequency, the waves are very close. So you're up really quick, but you're down really quick, but you're going to go back up really quick because they're closer together because it's a higher frequency. And I can point out places in my life where I felt like that was true, that I was low, but I wasn't low for long before the next thing popped in.
Yeah. And your vibe attracts your tribe.
Right. That's what we did.
Yep. That's what we did, y'all.
So I know we probably all have theories as to why our lives have felt quote unquote charmed. I just like to hear them. I just like to hear why you guys think that, looking back, that is what occurred at that time.
This is Brenda. I think we're here to serve a purpose on the planet right now, especially. And so I think that Spirit was keeping us around so that we could serve our purpose as we step into it more and more, because, I feel like your purpose changes over time depending on where you are and what choices you make, because you can choose to do something or not do something. So I feel like it's,
mm-hmm.
We're here because we're supposed to be here. We're supposed to be vibing to help the greater good of all humanity, the vibration of all of us.
Right.
So the higher we can vibe, the more we can help other people.
I feel like it's kind of a combination of that. Like it's kind of like you're reaping some of the good benefits of some good karma that you've sown somewhere in the past. And also, Spirit knows how much, your higher self knows exactly how much you can do and how much you can accomplish. So they're like, you don't need to worry about the trivial challenges. You need to save it up for the main event and the real stuff that you're supposed to be doing. So they kind of like take care of the background things that make you look back and go, oh, I had to have been taken care of. I had to have been supported in that time period because there was no other way.
Yeah. I 100% believe that. Yeah.
And it could be divine protection.
Mm-hmm.
But just the same way that our trauma passes down, like, DNA or something, perhaps what we're surrounded with passes down as well. I mean, I've got a wackadoodle family just like everyone else in this room, with a little bit of scandal and a couple of jackasses here and there. But for the most part, when I look at the people on both sides of my family through clear adult eyes, at their core, they're kind, they're positive. A sense of humor is highly valued on both sides of my family. And I would say that they're resilient. And even if they were talking smack or putting out low vibes, for the most part, I think I absorbed some of that sunshine. And maybe that's how we all go through it,
Yeah. But I also think expressing gratitude is so helpful where we're all sitting. It brought us to where we're sitting. Because the more you're grateful for, the more the universe gives you to be grateful for.
Right.
Right. And the more generous you are,
right,
the more generous the universe is with you.
100%.
I'm with you, girl.
But Lynn, you blew my mind before we started recording.
In a good way?
In a good way. I was talking about the place I was at when I met my husband. And this has crossed my mind several times. And it's usually when I'm doing a gratitude practice and I say I'm grateful for, Jason and how he supports me, and I'll get to thinking and I'm like, what did I do to deserve him? Because I think back to the time when I met him, I was grotesquely overweight. I hated my job. I was being taken advantage of at my job. And I remember being in a very low, I lived alone. So, there was also that kind of alone versus lonely thing going on. And I remember being not in a very great place. And that's the point in time where I met a man that is perfect for me. And he takes things on himself to do. And he'll say, I did it so you didn't have to. And he's very caring. Like, I say it all the time. You look up perfect man and you're going to see his picture in the dictionary because he's as close as you can get to it. And I keep thinking, how did I manifest that when I was in that place, when I was in that mental space? How did I do that? And you said, well, he was manifesting too. And I was like, well, shit. That part never crossed my mind. And I'm like, maybe he was at the place where he needed to find someone he could support. Not that I don't reciprocate, but he likes to take care of someone. So that's a great flip side to the point too, as well, is maybe those times when the money just showed up and you didn't know where it came from. Well, maybe somebody else was, their spirit guides were leading them to pay back some karma.
Yeah.
And maybe too, like, spirit is like your guides, your helpers. They're wanting you to evolve to the next level. And what if you couldn't do that without him? He brought you up to the next level.
Oh, for sure.
So they sent him to
soul contract.
Yeah.
In order to bring you up to the next level so that you could continue to work on the next thing, the next thing, the next thing.
And that's absolutely true. And I think we all have done this at some point. If I'd had to stay in corporate America, there would have been no way I would have had the time or the energy to do the investigation and the shadow work and the stuff that being able to work from home has given me the time to do. And that's all because he's very understanding and supportive of it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Me too.
Lynn, let's get you a man like that. Not Jason, because you can't have the same one.
Yes, my phone number is 336.
Back to the soul contract thing. I think a lot of us maybe have a negative view of a soul contract. Well, I messed up someone in a past life, so this life I get to repay them. Woohoo. But you're also one of the people that gets repaid in reverse.
Yeah.
And maybe we don't think about that aspect enough of it.
Yeah.
I know, I'll admit, I for sure don't think about that side nearly enough.
Yeah. It's good to look at it from a different point of view like that.
A or AE.
Yeah.
We're both.
Yeah.
And even the people that come into your life that you're like, I could have done without that one. They're there to teach you something. So, and like having gratitude for those experiences, even if they're painful, because they can help you to help somebody else
Right.
going through something you've already been through. So,
yeah.
And there's one perspective that I hadn't really thought about that I heard a couple of weeks ago. I was listening to, like, I think some therapist thing on YouTube, but the guy he was very trauma informed, and he was saying some things that really resonated with me. So I decided to listen to it. And he was talking about neutrality. And I think that's a place where none of us really think to go often enough, is like, okay, this is neither good nor bad. It's actually both at the same time. So it's really only one thing. You only have one quarter, but you have heads and you have tails. But it's one quarter. It's not good or bad. It's a thing, and it has a good side and it has a bad side. It's food. It can be sweet or it can be sour, but it's still food. I mean, it's like joy, pain. They're the same. They're not opposites. They're two sides of the same coin. And looking at things from that perspective has made a lot of difference. And just like some of the like childhood memories that come up, or dealing with someone who's a little difficult.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Lynn that said this or not. I feel like it was. And it kind of tripped something in my brain. But nobody's 100% bad. Nobody's 100% good. Oh, never mind. It was my friend Ellie.
I was like, it wasn't me, but I mean, I'll take it.
Yeah, so that same kind of thought process that nothing is either good or bad, and we are not just good or bad. We're both the shadow and the light together.
We're balanced.
And most of the time it's duality. Those things are true at the same time. You think about, I'm late for work. Well, it's bad because I'm going to get written up, but it's good because maybe I wasn't caught up in an accident that I would have been caught up. There's got to be, it's not only one thing. Everything is duality. Everything has, and another point that I heard was, it's not duality. It's really a trinity, because you have this side, the other side, and neutrality. You have the middle. So that was very enlightening. It gave me just a different point of view to think about things from.
It's like there's your side, there's my side, and somewhere in the middle, there's the truth.
Exactly.
All right, folks, this has been a fabulous discussion.
Yes, it has.
Very uplifting. I mean, it's
Quite enjoyable.
fun to sit here and remember all the things that have gone well for us in our life.
Yeah.
So I encourage you all listening to remember the good things that have gone good, well, in your life too. And focus on those things instead of the bad things and get that vibe up there, y'all. So we love you, and we will see you on the next episode.
Absolutely. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Ciao, ciao.
Thank you for joining us today. Please follow and subscribe to our podcast on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and leave a review. It's so easy to do and such a huge help for us. We appreciate your interactions so much. Want to join us at our table? Make sure to check out our YouTube channel and join our Facebook community. If you've enjoyed this content and wish to support us, take a look at our Patreon page. All information and links will be in our podcast description. Catch you next time.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM. Women's voices amplified.